Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and this is Red, aka the Black Magic known as Shaka, and this is another fun-filled episode of The Other Side of the Ropes. This is the online column that covers wrestling from nowhere else but the other side of the ropes, from a wrestler's point of view. And I'm just coming off the heels of another 30 minutes of unadulterated mayhem with off of Top Rope Radio with my co-host Johnny White Trash Logan, and yes, I said co-hosts. Yeah, he came back. I don't know what rock he came from under, but Viper Dalton has returned. Whew, that was a tough one. Trying to keep a leash on that guy is going to be a doozy. Anyway, I'm also coming off a night removed from the first match I've had for my 13th year in the wrestling business last night in Ellendale. Good affair. It was the benefit for burn victims over in for Power Pro Wrestling sponsoring this. And like I said, it was for a good cause. You had a nice little mix of matches there. You had Axel Rotten, you had the Patriot, you had Nikolai Volkov, and you even had the Briscoe brothers. And the show was just off the chain. My match was a couple matches before the Briscoes match, and I'm be honest with you, I'm still feeling it. And given the fact that I got to fly out to England on Wednesday, I'm probably just going to take it easy and just chill out. I'm not even going to hit the gym, just for that particular purpose. Normally you work through it, but like I said, my game's going to be thrown off just from having to do jet lag and everything else. So I don't see a real point of having to sit up there and try and do my regular workout schedule if I know it's not going to be a regular week. So, I'm going to decompress. But at the same time, I am definitely feeling that last match because this was a match none other like anything I've ever had in a wrestling ring, because it was almost like pretty much the same as what I had my first match in at the arena. I'm sorry, they call it the Asylum now. Alhambra, ECW Arena, Viking Hall has had so many name changes. I'm surprised a building can't have an identity crisis in less than 2 decades. Because I gotta be honest. The match I had with Mark Harrow, sorry Mark, I said Merrow, you didn't hear me say that. My match with Harrow was, I think I lost like about a pound of water just being in the ring 5 minutes. I was completely drenched. I'm pretty sure he was feeling it too, and we just went at it. It was a 15-minute draw. Now, I don't know if you guys know it or not, in amateur MMA, you get 6 minutes total. With the breaks, that's 8 minutes. So we pretty much had 2 doggone fights in one. It's crazy, because it pretty much almost was an MMA fight, because we almost have similar styles. Now, this particular column is kind of about, well, I normally don't throw these things out there, but since people like to talk about the supposed fourth wall that TV always brings down, well, you know what? TV always brings down the fourth wall. You know why? Because TV can do that. You know why they can do that? Because they can bring it back down and put it right back up, and you still never know the difference, because what else you going to watch? Now, people talk about that whole thing and bring it to wrestling. I got news for you, man. Reality is a multi-layered thing. Wrestling's no exception. You can talk about whether the match was worked, predetermined, is it real, is it fake. I can tell you right now, 13 years, anything you see happens. And I'm quoting Rocky Johnson when I say that. Anything you see does happen. Now, as to what the effects may be when you see it happen, well, that's another story. You see a guy get whacked in the head and he winds up bleeding. Well, the blood had to come from someplace. Was it a ketchup pack? I didn't see one. Did you? Now, people make a big stink about what we do. Like, people talk about things like gimmick. I think it's funny. Look, I'll admit it, I've had one, I broke in. That's what the thing you think you're supposed to do, because people think that wrestling is what they saw on television, and it's not true. And they figure, okay, it'll be boring as hell if it's the stuff they see where it's collegiate and all that. That's part of the roots, guys. Come on. But let's break it down. What do you see in wrestling when it's on a scholastic level? Basically what that is you're learning how to take somebody off their center, from off their feet, and pin them. That's it. Where do submissions come in? They don't. Quite simple. Now, where submissions do come in, as other levels of the game, you have submission grappling, or you have your other grappling disciplines, your other grappling sports. Please, you've heard of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I know the Gracies made it famous, but it was around before them. Judo is another one. And that's in the traditional sense, you're wearing a gi. Now you start seeing more of it without the gi. I mean, is it a recent phenomenon? Not so much. It's been like that for years. In fact, people don't realize, I mentioned this a couple of months before, catch as catch can is the very roots of professional wrestling. The greatest wrestlers who really were wrestlers may not have been athletes in the sense of the word that we know, because professional and amateur 50, 60 years ago wasn't the same as it is now, wasn't as organized as it is. Now, back then you had guys like Carl Gotch, you had Frank Gotch, you had Ed Strangler Lewis, you had George Hackenschmidt. I mean, it's a whole big list. Paul Boesch. These guys were catch wrestlers, okay? They proved their mettle. Didn't have to be in some big arena, but they knew how to do their thing. Frank Gotch, I think it was the one that challenged an entire collegiate wrestling team to try to pin him, and they couldn't do it. As a matter of fact, he took their heavyweight, and he pinned them in about 2 minutes. Now, remember, back then, there was no rift between amateur and professional wrestler back then. No, there wasn't. But he knew more than just how to pin somebody. That was part of what he knew. Now, what I did last night, we proved 15 minutes. I'm still sore, banged up. I know Mark is too. We went balls to the wall, and we didn't have to do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. Well, okay, he did do a suicida plancha. I didn't see that one coming. And as a matter of fact, I got a sore collarbone from that one. I'm still feeling it, but I can get over that. I mean, as long as I sleep a different way, I'm fine. Now, as for the rest of me, yeah, next to a little stiff. But if you worrying about somebody trying to choke you out and you keeping it from happening, if you're not used to it, you're going to have a stiff neck too. Anybody in grappling knows what I'm talking about. I mean, if it was even worse, I probably wouldn't have a voice last night to cut the promo I did after I got home. Case in point, is it a work? Is it a shoot? Well, let's see. The sore muscles are very real. Yeah, they're very real. Now, some other guys in the business will sit up there and say this, that, and the third. Guys, you have not a clue. Not a clue. People talk about the whole thing is MMA real, is MMA fake. Dude, listen, I'm going to tell you something. I try not to toot my horn about certain things, but sometimes I got to sit up there and pull a Dizzy Gillespie. And this is one of those occasions. Not even 2 years ago, October 2009, The Asylum / The Arena. In fact, back then it was The Arena. Okay? I'm the only wrestler, independent wrestler, whatever you want to say, pro wrestler, not sports entertainer, pro wrestler, to go into a cage. And we're not talking, it wasn't Combat Zone, it was Asylum Fight League. Went into the cage and fought a 3-round amateur fight. And the first, if not one of the first, MMA sanctioned MMA events in Philadelphia. You can look it up on Go Fight Live. In case you're wondering, no, they don't get guys off the streets. And I'm going to tell you right now, I took that fight on 2 weeks' notice. Now, technically, I wasn't even supposed to fight. I'll tell you why. At the age of 37, past the age of 36, State of Life Commissions in Pennsylvania tells you if you're beyond the age of 36, you need a CAT scan. I took that fight on 2 weeks' notice at the age of 38 before I turned 39. I was supposed to fight again the following year, and they pulled me off the card. Too young. Why? He needs a CAT scan. I'm 38. I looked it up. I looked at the regs. You got to dig for it, but I found it. But guess what it said? Need a CAT scan, past 36. So how did I still get the fight? The only thing I can think of is you take the fight on 2 weeks' notice. That means pretty much you're an alternate because the original person that was scheduled for the match I had got scratched. So I had to be ready to take the fight on 2 weeks' notice and train. The conditioning was there. All I had to do is make weight. But wait, there's more. The other thing you got to do is, guess what? A lot of states don't do this, even they're regulated for professional wrestling. You have to pass your physical. You have to pass a blood test. And this is the Triple H you deal with in MMA. You got to pass hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and HIV. Come back positive with either one, you're not going anywhere. Come back negative, all right, you got to fight. All you got to worry about is making a weigh-in. And if you don't make the weigh-in, in some cases, for every weight, for every pound you're over, you got to cough up $100. That's the reality. Yes, you're gonna have to cough up money, even if you're in the amateurs. So it's not as easy as you think. There's a reason for that. You do have to train. You're athletes, man. And people talk about not taking it seriously. You're just not gonna go in there and act like it's the UFC from 15 years ago. It's not that easy. They're not doing a super fights no more. They take a guy off the streets, and even then, they probably didn't do it. Seems like it, but no. That was where we messed up in wrestling too. That's why it's a subculture. There's a difference. Okay? Is it a work? No. Okay? Considering I had a cracked orbital rim by before we got to have a quarter of the way through the second round, nah. It wasn't no daggone work. And he wasn't trying to potato me. He's trying to go for my chin. I'm trying to go for his if I'm lucky, if I don't get his jaw. That's the way it works, people. Now, what are we doing here? I don't know. We trying to sit up there and see who's got the cooler doggone look for the go to sleep or the FU or the F5 or making up some other kind of nonsense. That ain't wrestling. That's just going for some kind of, that's show holes, baby. Big difference. I don't do show holes. People think it's a gimmick with me. It is not a gimmick. Gimmick is done. Ain't wearing no more face paint. The music might switch up, but it's on the same genre. But I ain't wearing no more face paint. I'm done. It's called I'm growing up. And plus, you're talking to a man who's about to turn 40. That's not the only thing, but it's called maturity. I can still go ahead and do my thing when I get up in there and still make it entertaining. I proved it again last night. Well, so did Mark. He knows what he's doing. That's why they put the match together, and that's why it looked good when it happened after they put it on paper. Now, on that note, I can keep going with this, but I'm not going to try and stretch my thing for 20 minutes for Facebook or YouTube. I'm going to try and get ready and try and edit the rest of this doggone video. And I got to turn around and do some more packing, preemptive speaking, because I got to fly in Wednesday because we going to England. On that note, from my boy Johnny Logan out west to my boys down south, Eric Chappell. We got our boys Brandon Mercury. We got my boys D-Line, Sam Jones, and Marcellus. What's up? Big up, y'all. We got, oh man, got so many people. We got Xavier Fade up in New York. Big ups to my boys over in Germany. Rick the Voice Valentine, Andrea Babic, Susie in Berlin, Susie in Dresden, Marcus Eisenkobe over in WrestlingFever.de, Burned over in WrestlingJunkies.de. Grace to all of you guys, all my people over in Holland, Tommy N, Andrew Patterson, the possible clone of mine, who knows, Rico Bushido, Mott Van Kunder, my boys over in Belgium. We got the Bull, we got Lori, we got Dr. Gangrene, Homeless Tom, Jack Domino, Wendy, and happy birthday going shout outs to my boy Mr. Rob Raw. For all you cats over there in Belgium, inderdaad. For the rest of y'all, incense. I'm out. Peace.